Hello there, my name's Andy from Dagoro's Grotto. Today I'm going to make a dice cup. It's been asked before how I make them. It's really simple, so I thought I'd go for a quick tutorial. Basically, the basis of our dice cup will be this Pringles tube, and we're also going to use the lid today. So what I've done already is I've drawn a black line. Probably won't be able to see it on the camera. Just here, about 10 centimetres down from the top of the tube. So the top of the tube is what we're going to use to form the basis of our cup, mostly because it's got this nice little lip thing around the top which we can use just to kind of seal the top. So it's about 10 centimetres down. On my cutting board I'm going to use a sharp knife. Always use a sharp knife, they're safer than blunt knives because you don't use so much pressure, and then just push that through and cut out the shape. So I drew the line first, the black line first, because it just makes things easier to follow. I've tried doing it freehand, that never works. So just cut through the tube like so, nice and slowly, nice and safely. Just keep following the line. Now I've made a few of these dice cups now. Always keep your fingers well away from the cuts, and always cut down towards the cutting mat. Sorry, that was just another little safety tip there, just as I was about to slice my fingers off. I've made a number of these for Blood Bowl and board games, but this one's going to be for Bushido, which is a tabletop war game. So I keep this bit because that makes a nice pencil case, sort of pen holder, and keeps my brushes together. And there we have it. Not massively neat and tidy, but it doesn't really need to be. Okay, so that's what we've got there. Just going to turn my glue gun on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the plastic lid of the Pringles. Obviously make sure everything's nice and clean inside. I've washed out all the crisps. They went definitely into my belly. And we're going to use that, and then we're just going to use the hot glue gun and glue that on there to form a base. Now you could use the other half if you wanted to make two from one tube. So you could use this because it's already got a base involved, but it just leaves this jagged edge at the top, and you would need to cover that with something, which is easily doable, but this makes for a neater dice cup, so I'd rather use that. And all we're going to do is we're going to just use some hot glue around there and pop that on top. Now I'm just waiting for my glue gun to warm up. It takes a couple of minutes. So what else am I going to do with this is I'm going to use some spray paint to paint the inside and the plastic of this. Now I won't do that on camera, mostly because I haven't got an outdoor setup, and I can't do this indoors because of the toxic fumes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that off camera. So once I've glued this on, the next time you see this, it will be with it painted. But essentially what we're going to do is glue the top on and then paint the outside and the inside with a black spray paint. Now hopefully my glue gun is warm. So this is just a cheap glue gun that I got from Hobbycraft for a £5. They do them in the range, and this is just an extended glue stick for it. So yeah, it's getting warm, getting warmer. Still not quite there yet. There it is. So yeah, give it a good layer of glue. You've got to be fairly quick because the glue is gonna cool down rapidly. So you need to be in contact with the plastic. So be quite quick with this. Nice long layer of glue, and then just press. There you go. Press your tube into that. You need a good contact with it so it produces that. A nice little plastic base that looks like the base of a mug. So there you go. Nice and firm. I use hot glue because it's a really strong bond. It gives it almost a waterproof, I mean you could use it as a drinking cup really, a waterproof base, a waterproof seal, but also really nice and strong. So I'm just going to pause the video there and then we'll come back to it when it's nice and painted up. Okay, so I'm just spraying the cup now. I'm using a primer that I got from the range. I used a grey one with a big strong adhesive primer to start with, just so the paint will adhere to the Pringles tube, because the inside is very shiny because of the fine and everything else. And then I used this matte black to completely cover the model, so that it is the right colour. Now the reason I use black is because it gives a really good background colour to what we need to do, because what we'll also do is use this pewter colour to do the edges, to sort of give it a metal feel. But while that's drying, I'm going to just do the rest of it so we don't waste too much time. So I'm going to use this stuff called Funky Foam Sheets. I get them for 50p from the range. They're child's craft stuff, if you like. Child's craft stuff, they're craft stuff. That I use quite a lot in this, because it's great on dice trays and stuff like that, because it kind of just cushions the rattle of the dice, if you like, and gives it a nice sort of holdable surface. So I'm making little circles, a couple of little circles in black. The reason I'm using black is because I want it to be very much a background thing. So all I'm going to do is use my Pringles tube, the other side of the Pringles tube that we didn't use, and then find a little spot, and I'm just going to mark out a circle, and because it's nice and soft material, it gives a little impression. Hopefully you can see that on the camera, and I'm just going to use that as a guide to cut me a kind of rough circle. I'm not really worried about it being too neat, although I kind of want the edges on at least one of them to kind of be rounded rather than jagged. And then I'm just going to use some plain old scissors, my funky lime green scissors, so plain old, and then I'm just going to cut around that indentation, which is a nice little mark for us to use to get the size of the circle that we need. So the reason we get two of those, I'll just put it to one side, so I've got two, is these are going to be the base. It's going to sit in there to give our dice cup something nice and soft to sit on, so it doesn't mark any of your furniture. And also the other one's going to go in the tube itself to deaden the dice, so when you rattle them around, it's not so bad and you don't get that plasticky feel to it. So those two, so just in the prep work here, I'll show you how it all goes together in just a second. So those two circles we put over to there. What I've also done is I measured out, I'm going to use my tube again, a piece of blue, because blue is going to be the colour of it's my favourite colour. It's going to be the colour that I'm going to line my dice cup with. So I just cut out about 9.5 centimetres worth of height, so it can go around my tube in a moment, and then I wrapped it around and cut it to size so that is the fit. Now you'll notice the gaping hole in the middle. And the reason I done that is because what I want to do is I want to put some detail in it, and I wanted it to be kind of well, Bushido is a fusion of Oriental fantasy. It's a tabletop skirmish game. It's a bit Oriental fantasy, so I wanted this to be a little bit Oriental mysticism and stuff like that. So what I did is I cut a circle out, and then I cut a yin-yang out of different colour foams. So I've got these foams, and I just cut those using the base of the Pringles tube. Let me just get on a piece of foam. The base of the Pringles tube, and using my sharp knife, I just went round. This is the great thing about the base of the Pringles tube, is that it's actually metal. And then I just drew the knife around very carefully all the way around, and that gave me my basic shape. So that cut out the hole in the middle, and then I used that to produce the two halves of the size templates for the yin and the yang. And then all I did was I took a pen, like a normal biro, I took out the innards of it and just left the tube itself, and I popped two holes in there, and then I just use those bits to make my yin and my yang. So you can see, hopefully you can see that actually that's going to look pretty good when we get to print it on my dice cup. And once it's dry, I'll show you as a fully assembled model. Okay. Right guys, the last little thing then. So this is our Pringles tube that we've sprayed. What I've done is I've coloured the edges of the Pringles tube. That's the top part of it there, and the plastic sort of cut part of it. A peach colour, like I said earlier. This is a metallic cup that I got for about £2 from Amazon or something like that. Just give it a good colour, and the black really brought out the kind of pewter. So it's a bluish kind of metallic paint. Of course, that can be any colour at all, doesn't really matter at all. But yeah, so that's the Pringles tube. The inside is matte black with the spray, and those black circles of foam that I cut out. One is for the bottom there, so you can hear it's a nice cushioned base, and the other one has gone in the bottom of the cup. So when I take some dice, there we go. So there we go. So that's the basis of the cup. So that's the cup in its basic form, and I think it can be used just like that. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. You can see it's fully functional. But what we're going to do is just add the decoration down. So we're going to take the foam and the bits I cut out there, and I'm going to use, this is just a little bit of I don't like those little tiny fluffy bits, so I'm just going to cut that off with a knife. No, I'm not. I don't want this bit to get entirely. Right, so I'm going to use super glue and PVA glue, so normal just sort of school glue. The reason I'm using the school glue is because it's cheaper than this gel. Normally for these things I would use a pound shop super glue. You get about 7 little tubes for £1. They're about that big, and it's dirt cheap, but this stuff is quite expensive, so I'm not going to use a lot of it. All I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to just make sure that's the clean side. That's the clean side, right? Okay. So I'm going to use the super glue just to make a decent stick and a quick stick, because this can be a bit tricky otherwise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the super glue on. Oh, hopefully I've got some left. It's a bit sticky stuff, really. Let's get rid of that mess at the top. Sorry for the dead air. This stuff, because it's a gel, is very sticky. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to just use this to line the edge here and here, and also around here, because I need this in particular to stick. And I'm running out of gel. This stuff is expensive, so I don't want to use too much. Normally, like I say, I use Poundland stuff or just PVA glue and 2 lines of gel just on the edges. So all I'm going to do is use the PVA now, just so the rest of it gets glued onto the cup. Just nice big swathes of it, and then I'm just going to make sure that glue gets to the edges, so the edges stick. I'm going to avoid the super glue, because obviously if I touch the super glue with a brush or with this glue, then it will glue my nice brush to bits. So just go to the edges there so that it will stick nicely, and then just right to the edges there, and as far as you feel comfortable into it, really, like so. Right, so that's got some PVA. I'll wash that brush in just a minute, so I'm going to pop that there. Right, the next bit is the most difficult bit, is to try not to touch that side of it so that you glue your fingers to the... Right, hello there, sorry, apologies, but I didn't realise that my phone had run out of storage, so the video ended abruptly. What I did essentially was wrapped the cup in this blue foam, being very careful that obviously I didn't glue my fingers or the wrong bit of the foam to to the cup itself. So try and make a nice tight seal at the back. You probably get a line there, but it won't be too disastrous. I tend to follow the bottom line as my my point of origin. The reason I did super glue around the circle is because the PVA glue is very slow to make a bond. It makes a very strong bond, but a very slow one. So I super glued this so it would get done quicker. And essentially what I'm just going to do now is just going to get these glued in here. And that's going to be with super glue as well. So I'm going to do that and then just get that into the right position so we can then see the last little bit. So it's a case of make sure that we've got the right bits. And I'm going to use the super glue for this. So again, I would rather use the Poundland super glue, which is really cheap, and you can use all of it up. But I'm having to use my good glue, as it were, my Gorilla Glue, for the sake of expediency. So just try and be aware that this is just use the cheaper materials to keep the costs down for a starter. Or you can just use the PVA glue, which will slow everything down, but that's okay. If you've got loads of time for it, then that's no problem at all, is it? So I'm just going to pop these on here. Try to make it as neat and tidy as possible. So get right into it so that it's all nice and level. Oh. Like so, and then it goes into the corners there, and then obviously the same goes for the black side. I don't know which is the yin and which is the yang, to be honest. I've not done the research. All I know is it's meant to symbolise harmony, and there we have it. And they go in like so. Just give it a good rub to make sure all of the bits are gluing, and there we have it. So we have our dice cup finished. There we go. And you might ask, well, why do I need a dice cup? Well, some games you have a very limited surface area, playing area, so you could be playing a ball game and then you're kind of trying to do this, because if you throw it then they're going to go everywhere. Dice cup, nice and neat and tidy, and there you go. The other good thing is this, for the Shido particularly, is a secret dice cup, so you allocate a certain number of dice to offence and defence, or attack and defence. So you have to sort of, you have 5 dice, you would say potentially take those 3, 1 attack, 2 defence, put those in there, and it's a secret dice mechanism, so both your and your opponent will have dice in the cup at the same time. They won't know which dice you've taken until you've revealed them. So dice cups I really like, and they have their place in a lot of games, but particularly with limited sort of tabletop space, they're great for controlling it. And that is my dice cup. Thank you for watching. My name's Andy from the Gobbo's Grotto, and I hope you found this at least interesting.